I remember the exact second the room went quiet. It wasn't dramatic, no alarms, no shouting, just the sound of fluorescent lights and a single cursor blinking on my screen. 2:40 a.m. That timestamp has followed me for the rest of my life, because that was the moment I realized the Cold War wasn't ending tonight. It was mutating. The night shift at Langley never felt safe, but it felt honest. During the day, analysts performed for meetings. At night, we dealt with raw data, unfiltered, uncomfortable, and unforgiving. The kind of data that didn't care about careers or speeches. I was the senior nuclear watch analyst that night. My clearance level allowed me to see feeds most people didn't even know existed. Satellites that didn't officially exist. Sensors whose locations were redacted even from other agencies. At 1:48 a.m., the first alert appeared. Not a launch warning, preparation, fueling activity, command-level communications spiking, encrypted traffic patterns consistent with pre-launch doctrine. This wasn't speculation. This was pattern recognition drilled into us for years. I leaned forward and pulled the raw infrared feed. Bright white heat signatures bloomed in places that should have been dark. Too symmetrical, too deliberate. I checked the fail-safes. Then I checked them again. Nothing glitched twice like that. My assistant analyst, a kid barely 3 months out of training, looked at me and swallowed hard. Is this real? I didn't answer him, because the rule was simple. If you hesitate out loud, you infect the room. I opened a new assessment file. My fingers hovered over the keyboard longer than they should have. Probability of hostile intent. High. That word mattered. It meant phones rang. It meant people woke up. It meant bombers moved from standby to runway. I typed it anyway. The report auto-routed to preliminary review. That's when the red light on my phone lit up. No ringtone, no vibration, just red. I picked it up. A man spoke who didn't give his name because he didn't need to. I'm looking at your draft, he said calmly. Walk me through why you chose that language. I explained the data, the corroboration, the absence of noise. He listened. Then he said something that still makes my stomach tighten. You're right, he said, and you might also be wrong in a way that ends your career and destabilizes 3 continents. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He reframed the risk. He told me about a Soviet drill 6 years earlier that mimicked launch prep almost perfectly. A false positive that nearly triggered retaliation because an analyst had used the word high instead of elevated. He told me about markets opening in Asia in 4 hours. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. If you soften the language, we buy time. If you don't, we force hands. I looked at the screen. 1 word. 1. I changed high to moderate. Immediately, the routing priority downgraded. The report still moved upward, but slower, cautiously, with caveats. Across the ocean, Soviet indicators continued. Inside our systems, response protocols stalled. At 2:41 a.m., a secondary feed lit up. Ballistic submarine activity. My assistant whispered, "Sir." I held up a hand, because now, the decision had already been made. At 3:06 a.m., NORAD requested clarification. At 3:12 a.m., the clarification arrived too late to matter. Because the Soviets didn't launch, they waited. And waiting is the most dangerous posture in nuclear doctrine. By sunrise, the world hadn't ended, which is why history books call that night a success. But they don't tell you what followed. They don't tell you that the alert status never dropped below red that week, or that the president slept in the situation room for 3 nights, or that contingency plans were rewritten under the assumption that hesitation, not aggression, was now the primary threat. They don't tell you that the Cold War didn't cool. It hardened. Permanent readiness replaced deterrence. And analysts like me became the front line. I was promoted within 6 months, because nothing happened. But every time I close my eyes, I see that blinking cursor. The second the future stopped moving forward. At 3:47 a.m., the clock on the wall stopped being decorative. It became a weapon. That was when Strategic Command flagged the first countdown window. Not an official launch countdown. Those are loud. This one was silent. A decision window. 38 minutes during which both sides' systems would assume the worst if nothing changed. I knew that window by heart. We all did. We were trained to treat it like a living thing, something that shrank when ignored. At 3:49, my secure terminal flashed amber. Submarine activity, confirmed location. North Atlantic status, pre-launch posture. The room didn't panic. That's the dangerous part. People who panic make noise. Noise brings intervention. Calm lets momentum build. My assistant's knuckles were white around his coffee cup. "Sir, if they're mirroring us," I nodded. If they were mirroring us, it meant our hesitation hadn't de-escalated anything. It had confused it. At 3:55, a line of text appeared at the bottom of my screen. Automated response recommendation generated. I froze. Automated recommendations weren't suggestions. They were the system telling humans what it would do if humans failed to decide fast enough. The model had been trained on decades of Cold War near misses. It didn't understand politics. It understood probability curves and survival thresholds, and right now, the curve was bending the wrong way. I opened the recommendation. Proposed action. Escalated readiness confirmation, not a strike, but the step right before one. Across the room, a senior watch officer stood up slowly. Who signed off on this? No one answered, because the truth was uncomfortable. I had. By softening the language, I had delayed human escalation long enough for the automated systems to move closer to the wheel. At 4:01, the hotline lit up. The red phone. Not metaphorical, not symbolic. An actual red handset mounted into the wall, connected to one place and one place only. Moscow. The officer nearest it hesitated for half a second too long. Then he picked it up. I couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but I could hear the tone. Flat, controlled, military. The call lasted 42 seconds. When it ended, the officer turned toward us. "They want confirmation," he said. "Not reassurance, confirmation." Confirmation meant acknowledgement of mutual readiness. It meant both sides admitting they were one decision away from launch. The clock read 4:08, 31 minutes left. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. B2 systems, fully awake. Too calm. No shots fired, no retreat possible. At radar interference over Greenland. Not conclusive, but enough to trigger review. The Soviets would see the same interference. Each side would assume the other was masking activity. I knew how this ended. I had written the training modules. False positives don't kill you, delays do. The room filled with quiet movement. Phones lifted, chairs scraped softly. Nobody raised their voice. That's how you know it's bad. At 4:18, Strategic Command requested a revised assessment. They wanted to know if hostile intent had increased since my last report. The cursor blinked at me again. I could change the word back. I could correct it. But now, correcting it would mean admitting the delay. It would mean explaining why we waited while the window closed. It would mean triggering a response with less time to control it. I looked at the countdown. 27 minutes. I typed, "Probability of hostile intent, increasing. Not high. Not yet." The report went out. At 4:26, the automated systems escalated again. DEFCON indicators shifted without ceremony. No announcement, just lights changing color. That's when the air changed. Everyone felt it. Because this wasn't a drill anymore. My assistant whispered, "Sir, my wife is pregnant." I didn't look at him, because if I did, I wouldn't be able to keep typing. At 4:33, the second hotline call came in. This time, the officer put it on speaker. A Russian voice filled the room. Translated in real time. "Your systems are active," the voice said. "Ours are active. This posture cannot hold." The general on our side responded carefully. "This is defensive." A pause. "So is ours," the Russian replied. The implication hung there, unspoken. Defensive systems still launch missiles. At 4:41, a new alert appeared on my screen. Ballistic submarine. Doors open status. Ready. I stood up. "Sir?" someone asked. "I need to amend the assessment," I said. The room went still, because amending it now meant crossing the line. It meant forcing a decision instead of letting the clock decide for us. My hands hovered over the keyboard. 24 minutes. If I changed the word now, leadership would be forced to act decisively, escalate fully, or stand down publicly. Both options carried consequences. One might end the world, the other would rewrite doctrine forever. I changed the word. Probability of hostile intent, high. I hit send. The system reacted instantly. Priority flags ignited, phones rang, doors opened. People I had never seen before rushed into the room. The countdown froze, not stopped. Frozen, because now humans were back in control. At 4:52, Strategic Command issued a public readiness confirmation. At 5:03, Moscow did the same. At 0511, submarine doors closed. No missiles launched. No cities burned. The world survived by minutes. History calls it restraint. But here's what they don't tell you. After that night, automated systems were never scaled back. Human hesitation was labeled a vulnerability. Decision windows were shortened. Analysts were trained to escalate faster, not slower, because the lesson wasn't that escalation was dangerous. The lesson was that delay almost killed us. And that was the night the Cold War stopped pretending it would ever end. After this night, they changed the system. They shortened the window, and they started looking for the people who remembered what really happened. This diary didn't end here. It was interrupted.